Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today's video is featuring this Cupcake Bouquet stamp set and die from Trinity Stamps. I thought this was totally adorable. I love cupcake stamps. I can't help it. I think they're super cute. I love cupcakes in real life too. So basically the goal of this card is showing you how you can make one stamp fill a whole card. Now, to be clear, this stamp is totally large enough to just carry a card on its own. But if you're looking to make it a little bit more interesting, we're going to talk about some things that we can do. So here, I stamped it with black. This is going to be my main image. My next plan, and I'm sharing this with you because, again, you guys know I like to be transparent. My original intention was to use second generation stamping to stamp a second cupcake, and then third generation stamping to stamp a third. All that means is I just didn't re-ink it. This did not work out, but that was my original intention. What I ended up doing, because we got to be adaptable, what I ended up doing was actually getting a no-line coloring ink and using that instead for the back two stampings. I did clean my stamp. Which is rare, but I did clean it in between. But it still has some black when it stamps down. It's almost like that ink is reactivated by the new ink, but it's not enough that I am concerned about how it looks or about how the no-line coloring is going to look in the background. So that is the first one, and then I will move this over to the other side of my Misty. I'm also stamping them so that they're staggered. So I'm not worried about them overlapping because the star of my show is going to be in the middle and is going to cover up that part. But I am stamping one further in the background, one a little bit closer up, and then the focal point will be the closest. This is something that I guess if you don't have a lot of supplies on hand and you're trying to stretch your supplies and get different looks out of them, we're going to talk about a couple of different ways to do the coloring. So the one that is the furthest away is going to have the least amount of detail. For this stamp, I only used two colors. I still did my shadows the way that I would normally do them. I still paid attention to the lines that are there that the illustrator has drawn for where the shading should go. But I didn't detail it out with a bunch of different colors like I normally would. This is going to look a little bit strange as like we're doing it and the whole card isn't pulled together. When you see it all together at the end, it will make a lot more sense for the way that it should look. But so on the left-hand side, I've just done two colors. I've done a C3 and a C1. On the right-hand side, I'm going to do three colors. I'm going to do a C5, a C3, and a C1. And even just with that, you'll be able to see a huge difference just by adding that third color and a little bit of a darker shadow, how much more depth and dimension it has. We talk a lot about being afraid of dark colors here on my channel. I understand that they are a little bit scary, but it really does if you can bring yourself to just try it. And remember, it's just paper. Like, I'm not talking about a masterpiece that you've been working for 2 hours on, and this is the first time we're going to try dark color. But if you have a stamp set that you really like this image is a great image. It's a beautiful image. You could use it for lots of different things. I chose to use it for a birthday card. This card is already gone. It went to my sister-in-law, Mallory, for her birthday. But just sit down and play and try different ways to color things because you're not going to learn unless you do. That's just the fact of it. The skill set's not going to come to you like magic. You have to practice. We'll come back to this. So here, I'm just going to fill in this whole flower. Now, normally I would map out where the shadows are going, but because this color is so light, I could still see the lines, like for the note line. So I wasn't super concerned about it. I just filled them in, and then I'm going to go back in and follow those lines with my second color. And there are going to be some points that I speed up the process of the coloring because I am going to show you for the focal point the full coloring for that cupcake. So I wanted to show you just enough of each one of these for you to have a good understanding, but ultimately the focal point, the crown on top of this card, if you will, is going to be the one where I show you all of the coloring of all of the images. Once I go back in and lay down my shadows, then I'm going to go back in with that first color and blend them out. Something to note when you're blending these out, which is important, you don't just want to go back in with your lightest color and just cover the whole flower. You want to still go petal by petal, because with Copics, because they're transparent, lighter colors remove darker colors. So if you just go in all haphazard, you're going to make your darker colors one tone. Whereas if you go in petal by petal and kind of blend them out, they're all going to stay in the same shape. All of the, brush strokes or shading strokes are going to be in the correct direction. And you're not going to remove too much of the shadows because you're just blending out, the edges. Here we've sped up a little bit. This rose on the side is a little bit more compact. So you'll notice when I do it on the other cupcake where I use the 3 colors, that I didn't even, I stuck really to my 3 colors because there wasn't a lot of room for extra. Here, I'm just showing you my color combinations. These color combinations are all 4 colors that I used in the end image for the focal point. I keep saying, okay, so this is funny. Maybe you guys could relate. Maybe not. But so I worked with a girl, and maybe you've known somebody like this. She's a very sweet woman. She genuinely does have a kind heart, but she is an attention seeker. Everything, like if she's involved, she wants to be the star of the show. And so what are we going to name her? We'll name her, because I can't use her real name. That would be rude. We're going to call her Sandra. Okay. And we would always joke around like that it's the Sandra show starring Sandra, supporting actor Sandra, choreography and music by Sandra. Like everything had to be her. And that doesn't take away from the kind of person that she was. It did get frustrating at times. But basically on this card, my cupcake is Sandra. Sandra is the star. Sandra is the supporting actress. Sandra is the cast extra. Like this whole card is about this cupcake stamp, just multiple ways. So now that we have this one in the back done with just the 2 colors, not a lot of detail, we are going to move on to the one with 3 colors, which is much closer to how I normally color and how I would recommend, even if you're new to shading, I would recommend at least a 3, so you have a light, a medium, and a dark. Now you can see here I'm starting with my darker color, mapping out those lines. This can be a little nerve-wracking. I am heavy-handed with my darks, so I made sure not to add any extra shading. I just went over the lines that were already drawn there. But then when you use a light, a medium, and a dark, the color you should see the most of is the medium. You should have a little bit of shadows, your dark, a little bit of highlights, your light. But the majority of the petals should be your mid-tone. And then I'm just going to go through, fill those out, and then again, when I go back over to blend it out with the lightest color, I'm going to follow the shape of the petals. It does take a smidge more time, and I do mean a smidge, it's not much. It does take a smidge more time to go petal by petal, but it's important to maintain the integrity of those darker colors so that everything doesn't start to look like it's the same color. And even just looking at these 2, the addition of that one darker color, makes such a huge difference. This is the same stamp. It is the same flower. It is the same style of no line coloring. All we've done is add one darker color, and you can see the contrast in dimension between the one on the left and the one on the right. So anywho, back to the practice. So I had a very nice lady send me a message on Instagram, and she was like, hey, your artwork is amazing. I think you have a degree in criminal justice, but what is your art background? And I've talked about this before on my channel. I don't have one. I don't have an art background. And so I sent her a message back and I was like, haha, A plus for you listening to Storytime. My degree is in criminal justice. Though I have to tell you that degree is the equivalent of toilet paper because I have the same job that I had before I had the degree. That's just my personal feeling on it. I don't have regrets about going to college personally, but I can see how it is not for everyone or for every job. I'll get off my soapbox about that now. So here, now I've showed you just one or two, just like I did with the first one or two. This one on the right-hand side has 3 colors. The one on the left-hand side has 2 colors. And I just wanted you to be able to see the difference. I had to slow the video down because apparently I didn't show it for very long. Now here we have this bold black outline. This is my preferred method of coloring. That's no secret. I like a bold black outline. That's just me. And I will do this coloring the traditional way that I always do. Lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. And then at the end of it, you'll really be able to see the difference. A no-line coloring look is much softer, and you can add more detail with like pencils. I find it hard to add a lot of detail with markers and no-line images because I feel like it gets blobby. But anywho, mapping out those shadows lines will help combat the blobbiness of no-line images, but I just like a bold black outline, especially with bright colors, which is what I have going on here. So I was like, A plus for Storytime because my degree is in criminal justice. And she said, but seriously, tell me about your art background. And seriously, I do not have one. I don't. I've always been creative. I've always liked to color and make things, to try new things. And basically, my whole understanding, I took art in school, I went to a public school. So like you had art classes through elementary school. I took an art class I don't think I took one in 7th grade, but I did take one in 8th. And I really loved that teacher. A lot of the information that I was able to hang on to, which was minimal, but was taught to me by her. She was a fantastic teacher. And then in high school, I took one art class of which I failed. That is the truth. That's the true story. Because we would have these art assignments. And back then, I like to think that art classes now would maybe be a little bit more flexible. But back then, they were very rigid. And I just didn't conform, which, if you know me, really no big surprise that I didn't conform. I just didn't do, I guess, what they wanted me to do. And consequently, I ended up failing the class. But how I did learn was through making my own mistakes. Like, you cannot be afraid to make mistakes in life, in your art, because if you are so afraid of making a mistake, you'll never move. You will never be able to go forward with anything if you let your fear of failure paralyze you. And it's in this particular case, you have to just do it. You have to just do it. You have to just make yourself do it. It's just paper. So try it. And if it's ugly, like there's this meme or reel out there that's funny, which is like, the 6-step process to creating something, which is, this is awesome, is number 1. Number 2 is, okay, this is starting to get tricky. Number 3 is, this is awful. Number 4 is, I am awful. Number 5 is, okay, this might be okay. And number 6 is, this is awesome. And everybody's art goes through that middle period where like, this is awful, I'm awful, I can't do this. You got to push past it. You have to push past it. And that doesn't mean that every piece that you're going to do or every piece that I have ever done has been pretty or come out the way that I wanted. It has not. That is an unrealistic expectation. You have to, when you're trying something new, expect that you will not be good at it. But you have to be willing to learn to be good at it. And If you're not, then you're never going to grow. You're never going to bloom into this artist, or in your life, this person that you have the potential to be. So you kind of have to just go with it. So try something like this where you stamp out 3 different things of the same image and you practice coloring them different ways. It will help you immensely. Another thing that helped me in learning is being taught by people who already knew things that I didn't know. So watching YouTube videos, people that I knew in real life that were doing things that I couldn't quite grasp, asking them questions, being inquisitive. Hey, tell me this is the look I'm going for and I can't quite, get it. Or can you show me your technique? Or can you show me how to achieve X? And those people are not even necessarily all people I've known in real life. Those are some people that I just know online from crafting. And I was constantly a consumer of information. I was always like, if I didn't know how to do something, I wasn't like, well, I don't know how to do it. No, ma'am. If I didn't know how to do something, I Googled it. I went through the videos that showed up. I watched different people's techniques. I watched different people's plans of attacks. And then I practiced. That is the biggest thing. If you take classes, which I am a big proponent of, if you take classes, if you watch YouTube videos like mine, if you, get the how to watercolor books. They see them in craft stores all the time, and usually they're at 50% off because I don't think anybody's buying them. But those are all very good resources and tools that you can use if you want to improve your art or your technique. Now, with that said, none of those things are going to improve your art or your technique if you don't apply them. Like, you have to be doing. So, watch the YouTube videos. That's great. But then do them. Do them along with the YouTube video. If there's a stamp set that you're like, oh, I really like that, and you've seen somebody color it or you've seen me color it, then pick it up. Put it on your wish list, and the next time that there's a sale or you're making a purchase, pick up that stamp set and then sit down and watch the artist color it and follow along. And they will show you where to put the shading. They will show you where they put the shading. And maybe you don't want to color like me. Maybe you want to color like somebody else. There's a lot of people like Kathy Rakusin, a Sandy Allnock that are very talented, but none of our stuff looks the same. Okay. And then you have like a Jen Shirkus who also colors quite a bit, but Jen does not necessarily go for dimension. She doesn't want necessarily things to be realistic. She just wants them to be cute focal points for her cards. And her approach is great for the look she's trying to achieve. She keeps it really simple. That's not necessarily maybe where I am or where like a Sandy Allnock is. But I will tell you that Sandy was one of the people who, when I met her in real life, I picked her brain. Hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you show me? And she did. And I'm forever grateful for that, because then once she showed me where what I could be doing differently, then I practiced it and built up my confidence to then try the next thing. And that's pretty much what you have to do. Okay. You just have to do it. You just have to. You got to take the punch, man, and just expect that you're not going to be good at it, and then be pleasantly surprised with yourself once you master that skill from practicing it. Nobody is good out the gate. There are people who are more inclined to be creative, like they enjoy that process. But as far as natural talent, we've all honed this skill to create this art. And if that's something that you want to do, and it doesn't even need to be a goal, but if it is a goal, you have to practice. That's what I'm saying. So here, there's a lot of leaves in this particular cupcake drawing, and I didn't want them to all be the same. So right from the get-go, I chose different blue greens and yellow greens to kind of get some contrast, and I colored all of the candles different colors when I was doing them. So they all have a different look. For this cupcake wrapper, you may remember we did 2 for the first one. We did 3 for the second one. We're going to do 4 for this one. So with the C7, it almost looks like I'm putting nothing down because I'm just following right along with the lines that are there. But that C7 will make a difference to my general overall shading that you see on the cupcake wrapper. Now, obviously, this one is my focal point. This is my Sandra. So I will be adding a little bit of extra detail and kind of zhuzhing her up and getting her ready for, what is it, the Oscars? Is that the Emmys? Emmys, Oscars. I don't watch that stuff, so I don't really know what the award is. Golden Globes, maybe? I don't know. She's going to get an award because she is a pretty girl. So here, just blending those all back out. And then I did what I would normally do to kind of make them the star of the show. I am going to show you all 3 together so you can see. On the left is 2 colors with no line. In the middle is 3 colors with no line. On the far right is 4 colors with a black outline. So a big difference in the boldness, a big difference in the dimension. And you don't have to do 4 colors. If you really like the color scheme of the 3 colors, do that. But I am going to outline it because I like it a lot. The big bold with the bright colors. I'm here for it. The other thing that I'm going to do besides the outline is I am going to go in with a white gel pen. I did add some highlights on the cupcake liner. This was kind of pointless because honestly, I'm going to go back in there with a silver pen. I forgot I was going to do that. But with the white highlights, I did add a little extra pop to the flowers. Just some little white details, some little highlights, some highlights to the candle as well. And then you'll be able to see here in a minute once it's done. So added, some dots to that purple flower, some highlights to the candle. This is that silver pen that I was telling you about. It's a jelly roll as well. It comes in, I think you can buy them by themselves. I don't know about online, but I know like at the craft store, you can buy them by themselves. Or they come in a 3-pack with or maybe it's a 2-pack, gold and silver. I think there's a 3-pack too with copper in it. So now once that's all done, I am going to die cut this out. You guys know dies aren't really necessarily my thing. And this one is probably simple enough that I could just fussy cut it. Why couldn't I think of that word? I could just fussy cut it. But here's what sold me on this die. I'm going to be honest with you. It was the sentiment. The sentiment. I liked it so much. It's in this kind of half arch. And it says happy birthday to you to go up over your cupcake, which I really was a fan of. But this die cuts out all of these words individually. So you don't have to use them in the arch. You can actually use them and, arrange them how you would like to arrange them. But I wanted to use them in the arch. The last thing we're going to do to kind of set our scene, which I did speed up quite a bit because it's a little boring, especially after all this color that we've just used. I'm going to make myself a little countertop that these guys are sitting on to kind of finish out my scene card that I'm going for here. And I'm using the same grays that I used in the cupcake holder for the 4th cupcake. And then I'm just going to blend these out. This is sped up, I think, 500 times. I'm totally not this fast, especially working around no line coloring images. I'm terrified I'm gonna, color right over something. So here, when it's in place, you can see, and I am gonna go over the white outline because I got problems. But you can see once they're all together how the lack of detail, I should say, in the back left one is really noticeable now that you have the one that has full detail in front of it. So in order to get my little arch the way that I want it to be, I purposely stamped it and cut it at the top portion of my card so that I could just lay it down right over top of my actual card and then glue my sentiments into place. And then once this is, done and they're glued down, I will just take that template out, like I'll just lift it right off, and then all of my sentiments will be where they are supposed to be, lined up correctly. And I just found that to be the easiest way to get them to stay in that arch after I die cut them. So there's that. And then I am going to pop up this the big cupcake, Sandra. I'm going to pop up Sandra because I just thought that it would be nice to have that little bit of extra dimension. I knew that I was going to be hand delivering this, like I saw Mallory in person, to give it to her, so I wasn't worried about like having to mail it or anything like that. You could totally glue it flat and the dimension that we've created with the coloring would be sufficient, but this is just an extra little something. So you see that one in the back left, that's kind of very fuzzy, not a lot of detail. The one in the right hand side, a little bit more detail, a little closer, a little bit bolder color. And then the one in the center, who is really the eye catcher here, that is our intention. I did, like I said, go in and color the white edges so that it would blend in with the flowers that were behind it. Last thing I'm going to do is add that shimmer. You know, I have to, I have an obsession. And I added that to all of the flowers and the candle and like the little candle flame, just the main image, not the background images. And then that's it. That's the whole card. I love this little set from Trinity. I think it's great, and I'll probably be using it quite a bit in the future for birthday cards. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that when you are done watching this video, you will practice something that you learned here today, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.